Part 18. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 173. The night is as cold as water, and a waning moon hangs slantingly. In an inn, only a few rooms still had lights on. A man stood in front of the half-open window, raising his head slightly and looking at the dark sky. You can't see the face, only the back, which is cold, covered with the clear light of the waning moon, and looks a little lonely. It hurts. Kui Yueying watched infatuatedly and burst into tears unknowingly. Standing in a daze, forgetting to move. As he started sobbing, the man looked back slightly and was not surprised at all when he saw it was her. Without saying anything, he looked out the window again. After a long time, she asked Yueying, do you think that when a person dies, everything is really gone? Is the soul gone? It's been so long, why doesn't it come into my dream? Kui Yueying wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief and took 2 steps towards him. She said softly, Master, my wife gave me a dream and asked me to take good care of you. She is afraid that you will not cherish yourself. Don't let her leave without peace of mind. She entrusted you with a dream, so why wouldn't she come into my dream? Ma Mingwen said slowly, with a hint of sadness in his tone. His heart had never warmed up since she left. It's been almost 2 years, and he has never forgotten her, but she still refuses to come into his dreams. Kui Yueying poured him a glass of warm water, walked to the window and handed it to him. Master, it's late at night, be careful of catching a cold. Seeing Ma Mingwen take the cup, he said again, have you closed the window? That's fine. He turned around and walked into the house. Kui Yueying closed the window, turned around and sat across from him, and saw that he was only staring at the cup and had no intention of talking to her. I sighed inwardly. He poured him another glass and said, I didn't expect that the master's opponent this time would be Bo Chang. He let the master run away. I wonder if the people above found out about it? Will it affect his position? He was promoted to it's not easy to be a 4th-grade general, right? Speaking of people they were familiar with, Ma Mingwen's eyes became warmer. The corner of his mouth raised slightly, he is a kind and righteous person. He sighed again, with no background and no one in the court, I have to shed a lot of blood and sweat to be promoted to the 4th rank. Those people in the army are used to overpowering others for military merit. Kui Yueying also sighed, he didn't expect to meet the master, right? He probably won't be able to do anything to the master. Seeing Ma Mingwen's worried face, he added, Master, you have taught him for several years, and he has always treated me as another father. I remember that in the past, he was beaten by his father, or had conflicts with his stepmother and 2 brothers. Always likes to come to the master to cry, and the wife will comfort him, but the master will only scold him. Kui Yueying couldn't help laughing when she thought of the past. Ma Mingwen also twitched the corner of his mouth. What does a man look like when he cries? He whispered again. Kui Yueying smiled, her wife felt sorry for him on the face and in her heart, while the master felt sad on his heart but pretended to be stern on his face. Kui Yueying opened up the conversation and also reminded Ma Mingwen of his days in Fengting town. When I first saw him, I thought he looked very much like Ruier. Because Ruier has been loved by me and Lineang more than his other brothers since he was born. So he has had a bad temper since he was a child. Loves to cry, act coquettishly, and is also stubborn. Later, I met Bo Chang and accepted him as a disciple. He worked hard himself and was not good at reading, but he learned martial arts moves well. Lineang also liked him and often mistaken him for its Ruier. Kui Yueying glanced at him and sighed inwardly when she saw that he was immersed in memories. He said, yes. I still remember that he used to like to come to our martial arts school when he was unhappy. He still refused to go home. My wife loved him and asked people to cook a lot of food for him. He didn't like it himself. I didn't say anything about the food. I couldn't bear to make my wife sad, so I kept eating until I vomited. Ma Mingwen laughed, my temper is exactly the same as Rui's. After saying that, my heart ached again when I thought about my youngest son who might have been reunited with his mother at this moment. There was a smile on his face. Kui Yuing felt a pain in her heart and quickly changed the subject. Well, if Bo Cheng lets the master run away this time, will he be punished in any way? Ma Mingwen sighed again, punishment is certain, it depends on whether his boss is willing to protect him. Bo Cheng is a temperamental person. With his temperament, if he wants to sit in a high position and go further, it will be very difficult. Ma Mingwen himself did not expect that it would be Lu Bachan who would face him this time. In less than 3 years, he would be able to lead a large and powerful iron army. He was proud of him in his heart. Fighting in front of the formation, the two looked at each other. No one could have imagined that the master and apprentice would meet in such a way on such an occasion. In the end, Bo Cheng feinted a shot, but he didn't care and actually stabbed Bo Cheng. Bo Cheng reined in his horse and retreated to the army despite being wounded, while he escaped from the siege of Shuo's army with his troops. Bo Cheng was thinking about his master and his apprentice, and he couldn't bear to hurt him, and he couldn't bear to fight with his master and apprentice. I would rather hurt myself and let him go. It's just that he let himself go. I wonder if Emperor Shuo will let him go. He will definitely not let him go. Ma Mingwen knew Emperor Shuo very well. He has no ambition, indulges in pleasure, and has a suspicious temperament. Now the Emperor of Qi was fighting against him in the eastern capital. He sent people to attack, but his generals let go of the Qi army. He would definitely not let Lu Bachan go. Just like he didn't let himself go back then. He had made so many contributions, and his sons had made so many contributions, and in the end they all sacrificed their lives for the Shuo dynasty. Lineang almost cried her eyes out. But in the end, what did their family get? This decadent imperial court was still lingering on, and he wanted to overthrow it immediately. I owe Bo Cheng this time, and I will definitely repay him if I have the opportunity in the future. I'm afraid he won't survive until the master repays him. Ma Mingwen paused, if he lets me go this time, Emperor Shuo will definitely punish him, but it won't kill him. As for the future, the battlefield is changing rapidly, I hope he can survive. Now he is holding his hand, my skills have improved again. I also hope he can live. He hasn't seen his child yet. Didn't the master tell him? Ma Mingwen shook his head, the atmosphere was so tense at that time, there was no time to reminisce about the past. 2. Kui Yuing said leisurely, I don't know whether Madame Su gave birth to a son or a daughter. If we leave a little later, we can see each other. I hope it's a son. In these troubled times, it's hard for men to live, let alone women. At least I can leave some blood for Bo Cheng. Yes. I think so too. After saying that, the two fell silent again. It's late at night. The master will go to Yuanzhou tomorrow. Is it okay for me to go to bed with you? Ma Mingwen's hand holding the cup paused, raised his head, and said calmly to Kui Yuing, go to sleep, I will do it myself. Kui Yuing's face darkened, she responded, yes, turned around and left the room. Ma Mingwen sat at the table again and was stunned for a long time before going to bed to rest. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Ba Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 174. The next day, Xiaoduzi knocked on the door outside Ma Mingwen's room, Master, it's time to get up. Read. After saying that, he listened carefully and heard a response from inside, then turned around to prepare. After a while, Ma Mingwen opened the door, and Kui Yuing walked in with a basin of warm water. Ma Mingwen glanced at her and said calmly, just let their boys do these jobs. Xiaoduzi followed and nodded repeatedly, that is to say, Ms. Kui still insisted on doing it herself and taking away their work. It's okay. They work harder than me. I don't have anything else to do, so I am idle. Ma Mingwen glanced at her and said nothing. Then a few more disciples came in, and they were discussing some things in the room while having breakfast. After a while, a disciple responded at the door, "Master, the carriage is hitched." Good. The group checked out of the room and walked outside the inn. On the other hand, after resting for a day in the village, Sukingyu was so bald with thought that she couldn't think of a way to relieve the village's difficulties. I heard from Grandma Doer that Gongzi County is relatively peaceful. Although the parents in Gongzi County are mediocre, they don't exploit the people there very much. Sukingyu was thinking, should she go to the county government office to try her luck? We are all citizens of Dashuo. They have been disturbed by a group of bandits and have made life difficult for the people. As parents, you will take action, right? Will they order the county officials to go into the mountains and clean them up? Sukingneo decided to try her luck in Gongzi County. Maybe she will meet someone who is like a leopard, who wants to make achievements, has ideals and ambitions, and wants to become the overlord of a party. Jiangdong 70 village, not to mention taking all 70 village, half of it, half of half, must be very fat. The mountains can hide people, train troops, and are rich in products. Maybe someone is really interested. As long as he is ambitious, even if the other person is not interested, Sukingyu firmly believes that he can trick him into showing interest. She is not good at killing people, but she is good at business negotiations. So as soon as the genius dawned, Sukingneo hurriedly put Xiaobao on her back, carried the load with Beishu, and set off for Gongzi County. At the gate of the city, Cyprus was carrying a pair of burdens, which contained some local vegetables and the like, bought from Doer's family. He was selected from the county, firstly to inquire about information and secondly to conceal his identity. Sukingyu, on the other hand, carried Xiaobao on his back and inquired about the situation along the way. At this moment, the two of them were walking near the city gate, waiting to pay the fee to enter the city. On the other side, Ma Mingwen and others were also riding out of the city. At this moment, the city guard was pulling the cypress tree's burden, asking him to pay the city fee. Cypress was reluctant to part with so much money, and was arguing with him. The burden contained some local products, which were worthless, and only half a tael of silver was needed. Unexpectedly, he had a dull temper and could not handle official duties. He was being pulled by two city gate officials, and his burden was about to be lifted. Sukingyu hurried over to help him and did not see Ma Mingwen and his party leaving the city. Ma Mingwen and his disciples sat on the horse, while Kui Yueying sat in the carriage. The wind blew up the car curtain, and she was looking out through it at the people lining up to enter the city. She felt that despite the chaos of war, people still had to live their lives as usual. In the morning, these people came into the city in twos and threes carrying burdens, full of life. I saw another woman carrying a basket on her back, and there was a child in the basket. At this moment, the child was picking up the basket and looking around curiously, and his chin was not as high as the basket. Kui Yueying stared at him with a smile, feeling that this child was particularly cute. The carriage was about to pass the mother and son. And Sukingyu just turned around and glanced at Xiaobao on her back. "Stop, stop. Su. What's wrong?" Seeing the carriage stop, Ma Mingwen approached the horse and asked. "I seem to have seen Mrs. Su." "Ah. Here. How could it be?" Ma Mingwen wondered if she had seen it wrong. Kui Yueying pointed in the direction of the city gate, that, the woman with a basket on her back at the city gate, the one with a child in the basket. "Xiaoduzi," Ma Mingwen called out loudly. "Yes, master, disciple, go and see now," Xiaoduzi responded and left. At the city gate, Sukingyu couldn't defeat the two city gate officials in the end. After all, the situation is stronger than the person. Now the war is in chaos, and there are fewer people entering the city. Every extra person who can be killed is one, and the city gate officials will not miss this opportunity. One of them weighed half a tael of silver in his hand and glanced sideways at Sukingyu and the other two. Wouldn't it be great if you were so sensible earlier? What's the point of arguing? It's a waste of half a day. Don't you have to pay the money in the end? Cyprus was so angry that he had half a tael of silver. Robbery. The prey he hunted for a day could only be sold for half a tael of silver. This load of vegetables and native products would cost half a tael of city fees. This load of stuff can't be sold for more than a few dozen cents. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have chosen it. Cyprus was filled with annoyance. Sukingyu held him back, fearing that he would argue with others again. Do ordinary people have to fight for half a tael of silver with their bare hands? He was about to drag him into the city when his arm was suddenly grabbed. Sister-in-law. You are really sister-in-law. Why are you here, sister-in-law? Zayaduz's eyes widened with surprise on his face. Zayaduz. Why are you here? Sukingyu was greatly surprised. It has been almost 2 years. It has been almost 2 years since their master, apprentice, and others left Fengting town quietly. Did they actually arrive in Jiangxi? This is not the place to talk. Sister-in-law, follow me. Sukingyu greeted Beishu and followed Zayaduz out of the city gate with a puzzled look on his face. Zayaduz, how did you get to Jiangxi? Are you alone? Where is your master? Master is right in front. Ah. When Sukingneo saw Master Ma, Kui Yuing, and others waiting not far ahead, it felt like yesterday. People who were very familiar before were separated, but now they meet again in a foreign land. Master Ma, Madam Kui. Sukingyu was very excited. King Huo. Sister-in-law. Both sides said hello and were a little excited. They all asked again, why are you here? Why are you here? Ma Mingwen looked at the people coming and going at the city gate, and it was not a place to talk, so he ordered, go back to the inn. Sukingyu got on the carriage and followed them into the city. When we arrived at the inn, everyone sat down and talked. Is this Bocheng's child? He looks so much like his father. He is almost 2 years old, right? Kui Yuing asked, staring at Xiaobao nestled in Sukingyu's arms. Sukingyu glanced at Xiaobao and nodded, yes. Bocheng named him Lu Viang when he left. I usually call him Xiaobao. Xiaobao, come and call Grandpa Shi, his name is Kui. Ma Mingwen picked up Xiaobao and held him up happily, call me Grandpa, Grandma. It's been a long time since Xiaobao was lifted up by someone, and he couldn't be happier, Grandpa, Grandma. Nyonyo's call made Kui Yuing extremely happy. Oh, here is my aunt who is so young. Master, please let me give her a hug. Xiaobao took advantage of the situation and landed in Kui Yuing's arms. Kui Yuing teased him happily, and Xiaoduzi and other junior brothers also gathered around. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 175. Ma Mingwen watched everyone teasing Xiaobao with a smile on his face. After watching for a while, he turned to talk to Sukingyu. Read. After hearing that he left, Sukingneo was called over by the government office for repeated questioning. She felt very sorry. I didn't expect that because of my little thing, I would bring you so much trouble, and even cause you mother and son to be separated. Sukingyu shook her head, we didn't lose anything, but we were called over for questioning. Fortunately, Xiaobao had already been born at that time, otherwise I would be called over 3 times a day to ask questions. I really couldn't stand it. Moreover, Bocheng's relationship with his second mother's siblings is not good either. Our families are separated, but we, mother and son, are quite peaceful. Ma Mingwen couldn't let go. No matter what, I can't forgive you mother and son for this. Kui Yueying listened and sighed. At that time, because I didn't want to add to the sorrow of separation, I didn't tell her. I didn't expect that it would bring so many things to her later. He handed the little treasure to Xiaoduzi and the others and sat down. Xiaobao is still so young. What did you do to bring him here? It's almost 1,000 miles away from Fengting town. How did you mother and son get here? It's really hard to imagine. When asked by the two of them, Su Qingyu thought of the days of fleeing in the past few months. From the beginning there was a big family, but in the end only her mother and son were left. No matter how hard it was back then, the family was still together. Now we are separated and we don't know where we are, whether we are dead or alive. Su Qinjiao had tears in her eyes just thinking about it. Guangnan Prefecture is recruiting soldiers. My father is also on the list, and my cousin and uncle are also on the list. Either of the two families will die. We all discussed escaping together. Many people in the village and town fled. We just went together. Fleeing south, later, we were captured by a team, so we followed the team all the way south, wanting to go to Fujian. I didn't expect to be chased by another team halfway. During the escape, the team ran out of food. The leader wanted to kill the women and children who were accompanying the army. They said they were burdens and chased us to the dense forest in the mountains. My parents and I then they got separated. Later, I was rescued first and went to a valley, but the person who rescued me was unkind, so we, mother and son, escaped. Unexpectedly, we escaped and were caught in another mountain. The village was occupied by a group of bandits. The leader of the village arranged for me and the Cypress brothers in the village to escape and wanted to come out to bring in reinforcements. In a few words, the speaker calmly recounted the past, but the listener could not help but feel sad and wanted to cry. It is truly a blessing from God that mother and son have come this far. Kui Yueying shed tears and seemed unable to wipe them away. Holding Su Qingyu's hand tightly, I'm sorry for you. No matter how much I said, I couldn't say anything. Ma Mingwen couldn't help but feel sad. This damn decadent dynasty, as long as the person on the throne has even the slightest ability to govern, he will not let the people leave their homes and their families. He's going to overthrow it, he's going to. Su Qinjiao faced Kui Yueying and Ma Mingwen, two people she knew very well. Seeing that they cared like elders, she also shed tears in front of them. She didn't have time to think about this whole journey, and now that she thinks about it, she is still terrified. Whenever something goes wrong, both mother and son are no longer alive. I met Bochen before I came here, Ma Ming said softly. Su Qingyu stopped sobbing and looked at him in surprise. Is he still alive? Ma Mingwen nodded, yes, he's still alive. Su Qingyu breathed a sigh of relief. It's good to be alive, it's good to be alive. It would be such a pity if he died without knowing that there was a little treasure. Ma Mingwen glanced at Xiaobao and said, I will definitely see him while I'm alive. He is now a 4th grade Zongwu general. But this time he let us go, for fear that his official position will be lost. Lu Bachan let them run away? Did you meet on the battlefield? Are you opponents? Ma Mingwen nodded, yes. You know that I left Fengting town, robbed the weapons of the county government, and robbed the magistrate's private house, right? From that time on, I wanted to join the anti-military team and rebel against Dashuo. Su Qingyu nodded, then you should have robbed a lot later. Naji County made a lot of money in our Pingchuan County, set up many tax cards, and collected various taxes from time to time. Even Xiaobao paid ding tax. Entering the city, the people who brought a few eggplants into the city had to pay taxes. Ma Mingwen shook his head, this Shuo dynasty is rotten from top to bottom. It can't even be repaired. Su Qingyu fell silent. It seems that Master Ma and Chuo Chao are hostile parties, and they belong to different camps from Lu Bachan. And the bandits who occupied the village were obviously against the imperial court. The two parties were in the same camp. Ma Mingwen glanced at her and said, "You just said that you escaped from the mountain to find someone to rescue the people in the village." Su Qingyu nodded. "I originally wanted to escape to the other side of the mountain and borrow people from other villages in the mountain. Unexpectedly, several nearby villages were occupied by bandits. We had no choice but to leave the mountain and go to Gongzi County. Wei. I planned to go to the county government office and tell the magistrate about the situation and ask them to send troops into the mountains to suppress the bandits." Ma Mingwen smiled disdainfully. Although the Gongzi County magistrate doesn't exploit the people that much, he doesn't have the courage to go into the mountains to suppress the bandits. Besides, the county does not talk about arrests, and the total number of company servants is only over 100. When Su Qingyu heard this, she became anxious. "What should I do? You don't know that I was captured by them in the mountains and lived in a datongpu with more than a dozen women. Every night, the gang of thieves came in and dragged the women out. There are women jumping off the mountain to commit suicide. It's too tragic. I can't just watch. If I don't save them, the people in the village will be killed." It was the first time Kui Yueying heard such a tragedy. Heartbroken, he looked at Ma Mingwen. "Master, please help me think of a solution." Xiaoduzi and the others listened and were filled with indignation, shouting, "Master, I'm going to kill them. Let's go too." Ma Mingwen glared at several of his disciples. "Didn't you hear what your sister-in-law said? Several nearby villages have been occupied. There are 200 to 300 thieves in one village. What effect can you have if you go there? It's not just hurting the people in the village." The glimmer of hope that had just risen in Su Qingyu's heart was extinguished again. Kui Yueying glanced at Ma Mingwen, then turned to comfort Su Qingyu. "Qingyu, don't worry. Let your master think about it. He didn't say he won't help you. He still has some troops in his hands, but it's difficult to defend in the mountains. To attack, you still need to plan carefully." Ma Mingwen looked at Kui Yueying and said nothing more. He only told Xiaoduzi, "Go and book a guest room." "Master, are you not going to Renzo?" "I won't go for now." "Are you going to Renzo?" Su Qingyu asked. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhao 11U. Chapter 176. Kui Yueying saw that Su Qingyu was a little excited when she heard about Renzo, so she replied. Read. "Yes, we were originally going to Renzo. The newly appointed governor of Renzo is an old acquaintance of the master. We sent a letter to him before and planned to visit him." "Why, are you going to Renzo too?" Su Qingyu nodded. "Before I got separated from my parents, I told them that if we got separated, I would go to a cloth shop in Renzo City to leave a message. I escaped from the valley and even touched Renzo City. He was arrested in the city and taken to the mountains." Ma Mingwen thought for a while and said, "Well, let's go to Renzo now. My men and horses will also arrive by then. If the governor of Renzo is willing to lend them, then we will have 2 men and horses gathered together, and the chance of winning will be better. Master Ma, are you willing to help the village drive away those bandits?" Su Qingyu was very surprised and asked repeatedly. Master Ma smiled and said, "I owe you and your wife. If I can repay you, I am willing to do something for you." "Thank you, Master, thank you, Master." Su Qingyu thanked her repeatedly, feeling very excited. Now there was hope for the village. Before Ma Mingwen could say anything, Bai Shu rushed over, knelt down, and kowtowed to him several times. "Thank you, sir, thank you for saving our village, thank you, sir." The repeated movements startled Ma Mingwen, and he helped him up. "There is no need for this. I don't know the people in your village, and this is just for the sake of my apprentice and his wife." Cypress shed tears and nodded fiercely. I know, I know. Sister Su and you are both great benefactors to our village. No matter what the final result is, I will thank you on behalf of our village. You are all great good people. My life, Beishu, is yours. Su Qingyu smiled and asked him what he wanted to do with his life. The group of people left the inn again and set off to Renzo as originally planned. He also gave up the cypress burden and gave it directly to the innkeeper, and followed him to Renzo with Su Qingyu. On the way to Renzo, a few horses ran ahead, followed by a carriage. Ma Mingwen rode on the horse, held Xiaobao in front of him, took him to sit on the horse, and took him to see all the surrounding scenery. He responded to Xiaobao's questions from time to time, and was very patient, showing his love for Xiaobao. Xiaobao was held in his arms and sat on a high horse. He was not afraid at all, but danced excitedly. Ma Mingwen was delighted to see it. And all the disciples gathered around him, teasing him all the way. In the carriage, Kui Yuing would lift the curtain from time to time and take a look outside. I couldn't help but worry in my heart, Master, it's true. When Xiaobao is old, let him sit on the horse. If you want to teach another disciple, don't be so anxious. You won't be afraid of letting Xiaobao catch a cold. Su Qingyu leaned against the carriage in great comfort. Finally, she no longer had to eat the wind and drink the dew, and she could soak her feet. There is a carriage, and it is really enjoyable to sit in the carriage where there is no wind or dirt. She comforted Kui Yuing and said, don't worry, Xiaobao is very courageous and has a good foundation. Besides, Master Ma also has a sense of proportion. What sense of propriety can he have? He hasn't taken care of children for decades. Looking back, he saw that Su Qingyu was already drowsy, so he slapped her. You are really big-hearted. Did you pick up the little treasure? Su Qingyu smiled at her. I have carried and hugged me all the way, and he just grew up on me. Now someone is helping me to hold him, why should I care about him? I am happy and relaxed. Whoever wants it, hurry up, hug it now. Kui Yuing saw her unconcerned look and laughed helplessly. The two women didn't care about what was going on outside and only talked inside the carriage. Now that I know the news about Bo Chang, if you can't find your parents, will you go find Bo Chang? Su Qingyu was stunned after hearing this, and went to find Lu Bachan. She hasn't thought about it yet. Go to him. Kui Yuing glanced at her, saw her heart moved, and advised, I advise you not to do it. Master said that there will be chaos in the capital sooner or later. When the time comes, heroes from all walks of life will fight for it, and the north will become a hot battlefield. There will be no peace. Live your life. Don't go there. Xiaobao is still young. If anything happens, you won't regret it. But it's not peaceful in the south now. That's better than the north. And this time Bo Chang let the master go, and he doesn't know what kind of punishment he will receive. The master said that demotion is a certainty, but it doesn't matter whether he gets 50 or 100 military sticks. It depends on whether his boss will protect him. But his life should be saved. He doesn't know about Xiaobao yet. You can send him a letter and ask him. Bo Chang probably doesn't want you to go there either. Su Qingyu thought for a while and said, but I don't know where he is. Where should I send a letter? I will ask the master to help you inquire about it then. Okay. Ying Niang, thank you. If I hadn't met you this time, I almost couldn't hold on anymore. Kui Yuing patted her hand, you have done a good job. If it were me, I don't know if I would still be alive. The two women were talking in the carriage. Outside, Ma Mingwen wrapped Xiaobao in a cloak and put him on the horse. He listened to him imitating adults and kept driving, which made him laugh. Several apprentices gathered around on horseback, looking at Xiaobao in surprise. They all said that he was smart and courageous, and would tease him from time to time. Xiaobao, come on, let's see who is faster. Say drive, yes, drive, kick the horse's belly, like this, yes, kick it. Shake the horse's rope again, shake. Xiaobeo's whole body almost stood up and started to move. He kicked the horse with his short legs, stretched out his little hands to reach the horse's rope, and shouted drive, drive. I amused a bunch of uncles and uncles. Everyone laughed so much that Xiaodozi almost fell off his horse. This caused Sukingyu and Kui Yuing to also lift the curtain and look outside. Seeing this situation, he couldn't help but laugh. It seems that the master likes Xiaobeo very much. I haven't seen the master smile like this for a long time. Sukingyu smiled and looked forward, me too. It seems that I have never seen Master Ma smile like this since I met him. Yes, he and his wife have never smiled since the deaths of several young gentlemen. A few young gentlemen. They all died for Dashuo dynasty. Sukingyu felt a sudden pain in her heart after hearing this. Silence fell. This was the first time she heard this. When she was with them before, they never talked about their family affairs. If they didn't talk about it, she wouldn't ask. Lu Bachan never told her. She guessed that they must have a story, but she didn't expect it to be such a story. Are all the sons dead? Die on the battlefield? So Master Ma took away the weapons of the county government and stood on the opposite side of Dashuo dynasty. And you said you were going to overthrow it? Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 177. Pei Nian, the newly appointed governor of Renzhou, received Ma Mingwen's letter and was waiting for his arrival in the governor's mansion. Read. At this time, he was sitting in the flower hall and read Ma Mingwen's letter again. After looking at it, he put it on the table and sighed. His wife, Mrs. Ma, came in, helped fold the letter and put it into the envelope. Master, what will happen when the clan brother comes to see you this time? My husband doesn't know. Ma hesitated to speak, and finally couldn't help but said, Master, he has betrayed the court. I heard that he had several fights with the officers and soldiers some time ago. If the higher-ups know that he came to see the master. You still don't know why Ma Mingwen rebelled against the imperial court? Besides, what's the difference between me and him this time? I remember when I was a prince's young master and attacked Ma Chang'an Street, everyone knew about it. But His Majesty brought the clothes ministers fled to Shu, but they left us in the capital to face Wang Hu's army. Wang Hu ordered all officials above the third rank to be suspended, and those below the fourth rank to be reinstated. However, the Qi army was originally a peasant army and hated the officials. How could they be harmonious? All the officials in Dashuo were killed, and almost all the officials and their families who had fled to the people were killed. Pei Nian looked sad and angry, then calmed down and said, if Yang Bai hadn't saved us, our family would have been gone long ago. Ma covered her lips with a handkerchief and cried softly. She was a young lady and a clan wife who grew up in the city of Chang'an, from an aristocratic family, but she was on the run. Now the whole family can only hide in this small city of Renzhou. Yang Bai wrote to me requesting the appointment. I was worried that His Majesty would not approve it. I didn't expect that he would approve it. Pei Nian smiled bitterly. Your Majesty, I'm afraid you don't remember who Pei Nian is. In the Great Zhou dynasty, the building will collapse. Master. What are you afraid of? There are only you and me here. His Majesty took back Kyoto, held a banquet for guests, and rewarded the meritorious officials. Do you think he even mentioned a word to the ministers who died? No, so many people died, but he didn't even mention it. If I didn't have something to do, I would have taken you to hide in the mountains to live a quiet life. Ma was silent. When Ma Mingwen came to the door, Pei Nian went to the gate to greet him in person. Others were also properly placed by Mrs. Pei. Sukinjao also followed Kui Yuing to the backyard. After Xiaobeo was fed something, he fell into a soft quilt and fell asleep. This journey was really tiring for him. He spent most of his time playing outside and refused to enter the carriage. Sukingyu covered him with a quilt, then left the room and walked around the yard. Seeing that Kui Yuing hadn't come back for a long time, she knew that she should talk to the governor's wife, so she went back to the room to sleep with Xiaobao. When she woke up, she was told by the maid that Xiaobao had been hugged by Kui Yuing after she woke up. Let her wake up and see the governor. This kid is really full of energy. Sukingyu smiled. After cleaning up, he followed the maid to the flower hall to meet the governor Painian. Painian and Master Ma are about the same age. They are both good-looking uncles and seem to be easier to get close to than Master Ma. Sukingyu saluted him. Painian heard about her from Master Ma and couldn't help but sigh. I heard what Mingwen said about you. I admire you very much. The two of us came out of the capital with many people around us, and we almost couldn't hold on. And you avoided military troubles and were arrested along the way. It's really not easy to be hunted and run away with a child. Sukinjao smiled. As a mother, you must be strong. Adults have seen enough of this world, but children have not. His life has just begun, and he must be alive first. Painian looked at her with a smile and nodded. I heard that your husband is Mingwen's apprentice, and he is still on the same level as me. Bandits took over the village in my territory, making it impossible for the people to stay. I am responsible for it. After your master and I have discussed it, I'll let you know again. Thank you, sir. I am extremely grateful that you are willing to take action. I would like to thank you on behalf of the people who are still suffering in the village. Sukingyu gave him another big gift. It doesn't have to be like this. This is what I should do. Besides, you are also a married woman now, so you don't need to pay me such a big gift. This is the courtesy that the younger generation pays to the elders. Haha, then I will have to live with it. The three of them talked for a while, and then Sukingyu went out. Painian looked at her leaving back and sighed leisurely. I thought we were already in extreme difficulty, but I didn't expect that the people in my Dashuo dynasty were suffering even more than us. Ma Mingwen turned his eyes back and said, if the war continues, the people will only suffer more. His tone was light. Painian sighed, I have heard that Jiangdong 70 village is hidden in the mountains. The mountains are high and the forests are dense. It is not easy to go in and suppress the bandits. It's not easy, but this time we have people who are familiar with the mountain roads to lead the way, and we have people from the village as internal agents, so the chance of winning is relatively high. And they are just a bunch of ragtag people. Painian nodded, okay. Then you and I can discuss it. That night, Ma Mingwen and Painian called Beishu over again for questioning. The next day, Ma Mingwen asked several disciples to follow Beishu to the direction of Beijiezai. This time, we will first go inside and send a message to the village leader Bai and others, setting an appointment signal for the attack, so that they can prepare internal response inside. Cooperate inside and outside to avoid unnecessary casualties. Sukingyu did not follow. Now that she has arrived in Renzhou City, she is anxiously going to the cloth shop to see if there is any news about Su's father, Su's mother, and others. As for Lu Xiaobao, he couldn't care less about Shu ever since he entered the governor's office. Not only Master Ma Kui Yuing rushed to hug him, but the governor's wife also liked him very much. The governor's wife's children are all grown up now, and her grandchildren are all in school. How can such a small, soft, sweet-mouthed baby be so cute? So he was picked up and teased 3 times a day. Even the governor liked to run to the backyard. The governor's mansion, which had been dull for a long time, became much livelier with Lu Xiaobao's arrival. Both adults and children in the governor's mansion liked Xiaobao. He received gifts mercilessly, and ate good food until his stomach was full. Sukingyu was nowhere to be seen, and she didn't see him cry twice. Seeing that he was safe in the governor's mansion, Sukingyu took Xiaoduzi to the cloth shop to inquire about the news. The cloth shop owner still remembers her. After all, no one has bought up all the shoe soles in his store at once. Moreover, her family was separated, and it was unique that she took several routes to deliver news to him. The boss couldn't forget her even if he wanted to. "Little lady, you are finally here." "Boss, do you have any news about my family?" The boss nodded repeatedly, "Yes, yes." "How long has it been since you came here?" "Your family has been waiting for you in Renzhou City for a long time. A month ago, there was a young man wandering around the city every day, squatting next to me every day, waiting for news from you at the door. For some reason, I haven't seen him during this time, as if I received news out of thin air, and I haven't left any messages." "Who is it? Who is that person?" Sukingyu grabbed the boss's sleeve anxiously. "Hey, don't catch me. His name is Sudahu." "Hey, don't be anxious. I have another letter here. I'll show it to you. Don't be anxious." As the boss spoke, he took out the key and opened the cash box, took out a letter and handed it to Sukingyu. Sukingyu quickly took it and opened it anxiously to take a look. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 178. Alive, all alive. Sukingyu held the letter and squatted in the corner of the cloth shop, tears falling down. The boulder that had been blocking my mind these days suddenly fell to the ground. She was really afraid that something might happen to someone, very, very afraid. She brought everyone out. If anyone had a chance, she couldn't face it. "But Sister Anyaya, where are you? He must be alive somewhere in the corner. You must live. Wait until I find you. Will Brother Dahu stay to find her?" The boss said that a month ago, he was waiting for news at the door of the cloth shop every day, but now he suddenly didn't leave a message and the person disappeared. Did something happen or was he arrested? Sukingyu stood up hastily. He staggered, but fortunately Xiaoduzi was there to help him. "Sister-in-law, don't worry. Is your family okay?" "Both my parents are still alive, but my sister and niece have not been found yet. A brother from my neighbor stayed to look for me. The cloth shop owner saw him some time ago, but now he suddenly disappeared. I want to go to the city to ask. I go with you." Sukingyu thanked the boss, gave him some money, told the boss some things, asked him to continue to help him pay attention to the news about his family, and then turned around and left the cloth shop. After asking around the city, no one had seen Sudahu recently. The officers from the governor's yamen also took them to find some gangsters and other forces in the city, but no one had seen Sudahu. Sukingyu couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Why did it suddenly disappear? He stayed to look for her. He probably wouldn't leave Renzhou until he found her. After the governor knew about it, he asked her to leave Sudahu's portrait in the governor's mansion. He would ask the government servants and servants to help keep an eye on Sudahu's news. Sukingyu was very grateful. "We will also help keep an eye on your sister and niece. Fortunately, your parents and other family members are still there, and they have been properly arranged, which is great. How many people have been separated from their families in these troubled times, and have been separated by life and death?" Sukingyu nodded. "It's great to have such a result. All still alive. Moreover, her brother is also alive, and her parents, Qing and Yang Qingxing, are with her brother. The aunt's family followed the son-in-law. She didn't know that person, but Huang Shenzi was a person with a bottom line, and her aunt's family should be able to live a good life. Are you going to Hunan to find your parents and family? I can send someone to take you there," Painian said enthusiastically. Sukingyu thought for a while and shook her head. We can't go there for now. I want to stay and look for my sister and the others. My brother-in-law is gone, and her husband's family is gone. She is a woman with a child. We agreed at the beginning that if we were separated, we would come to Renzo to wait for news. Yes. I want to stay and look for my sister. And brother Dehuo, he stayed alone to look for her, and she couldn't leave him behind. I want to write a letter to my parents. Is there any way you can help me send it? The road is not peaceful now, and the messenger who delivers the letter at the post station doesn't know who his men are, and he doesn't know whether the letter can be delivered. Okay, just write it and I'll find a way to help you send it out. Thank you, sir. Sukingyu returned to the room, spread out the paper, picked up a pen, and had thousands of words to say, but she didn't know where to start. In the end, not wanting Sue's father and mother to worry, she simply explained her situation. She said she was happy to know their whereabouts. Xiaobao has grown up a bit, and since he can talk, he has been talking non-stop. Now she can talk a lot, and she often asks her about her grandparents, uncles, and aunts. She misses them. She also said that the road was not peaceful now, and she would go find them when Xiaobao was older. She wants to stay here in Renzo to find her sister and brother Dehuo. Let Sue's father and mother Su live a good life with their eldest brother, and if anything happens, send a message to the governor's office. Sukingyu handed the thick letter to the governor, and Painian immediately arranged for someone to send it out for her. Next, Sukingyu inquired about Sukingliu and Sudahu in Renzo City. In an era when people generally did not have enough to eat, people selling their children and daughters were everywhere on the street. Business is particularly prosperous in the Renya Institute. Sukingneo was afraid that Sukingliu and Yaya would also be sold, so she went to see them every day. After several days of watching, I visited all the places where people are buying and selling in Renzo City. Those who sold their sons and daughters thought she was here to buy people, so they took off her clothes every day and let her buy people. Sukingneo was so scared that she didn't dare to go there anymore. It's too awful. The common people who couldn't survive sold their sons and daughters. Nowadays, a child is only worth a few buckets of food. In order for the remaining people to make ends meet and survive for a few more days, they even gave up their own flesh and blood. Ma Mingwen also disappeared every day. His troops have gone down the Gan River and arrived at Renzo. Several disciples who went into the mountain with Beishu also came back. I told everyone about the things in the mountains. Many people died in the mountains again. The desperate owner of Bai village finally came to Baishu. He was overjoyed and cried. After crying, he said that he would fully cooperate with Ma Mingwen and Painian in their anti-bandit operations. Baishu took several people to Muhua village and several surrounding mountain villages. The village owners were all grateful and said that they would cooperate with everyone's actions and strive to drive all the bandits out of the mountain with one blow. Sukingyu didn't expect to see Hua Leopard in the governor's mansion. Sister, it's only been a few days and you don't know your brother anymore, Huabao rushed in front of Sukingyu and said to Sukingyu, who had wide eyes. Why are you here? You have already invited people to go into the mountains to suppress the bandits, but my brother can still die with them in the mountains. Huabao glanced at Sukingyu sadly. Sister, didn't you say that you would remind your brother if anything happened? This is not authentic. Sukinjao glanced at him sideways. You think I'm the same as you? Of course I will. I will tell them to spare your life when the time comes. Huabao laughed. You know my sister misses me. Why did you follow him out? Sukingyu asked him again. It's boring in the mountains. I'd rather stay in our Kyoto village than go out here. I want to make great achievements and return to my hometown in fine clothes. What's the point of hiding in the mountains? If you stay here for too long, you'll become useless. Quite shrewd. So you followed Master Ma's people out? Yes, I recognized them at a glance. Master Ma was a big figure in our town when he was there. At that time, more than half of the families in the town wanted to send their children to his martial arts school and wanted them to follow Master Ma. I learned 1.5 moves to save my life. As for my brother, I used to hang around the door of the martial arts school every day, but Master Ma didn't take a fancy to me. I wouldn't look down on you either. You just came out like this? You didn't know how to alert someone. That's not possible. Is my brother such a stupid person? He said he wanted to go to the city to find a woman and drink some wine. He slipped out easily and no one suspected him. Have some brains. Also no practical things. Huabao understood Sukingyu's eyes and felt quite proud. Brother is very good at judging people. I think Master Ma is a person who can do great things. I plan to follow Master Ma. Even if I am a horse leader, I am happy, brother. Really promising. I don't know if Master Ma likes him or not. Sister, please help me say something nice in front of Master Ma. Please, he said and bowed to Sukingyu. Sukingyu looked at him seriously and said, you know what we are going to do, right? Huabao nodded fiercely, of course I know. Sukingyu raised her eyebrows but said nothing. Sister, do you want me to lead the way? Huabao asked tentatively. More than just leading the way. Understood, Huabao responded loudly. Just asking my brother to perform well? That's for sure. Sister, don't worry. I will definitely perform well and make Master Ma look at me with admiration. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhao 11U. Chapter 179. After Master Ma's disciples came back from the mountains, they all discussed it. Read. The next night, Master Ma personally took his own men and horses, together with the people sent by the governor Painian, integrated the team, and took them to Beijiazai at night. Because they were traveling at night, they did not alert the bandits. It did not cause other forces to discover or block it. The journey was very smooth to the foot of the mountain where Beijiazai is located. Because there were cypress trees leading the way, everyone easily reached into the heart of the mountain. Sukingyu didn't know how the battle was going. She didn't follow. Moreover, the people in the village have been notified before, so the bandits will definitely be driven out by the internal and external cooperation. Otherwise, Sukingyu didn't even know how many more people would die. Sukingyu was anxiously waiting for news about Master Ma and the others in Renzhou City, while searching for the whereabouts of Sukingliu and Sudahua. On Renyaza's side, a housekeeper from the outer courtyard of the governor's mansion helped her go to several Renyaza places to get information. As long as there is a recent record of buying and selling young women or 4 or 5-year-old girls, go and check them carefully. As for Sudahua, Sukingyu felt that he would not be sold. It should be like how they were captured by Huang Shenzi in the mountains before. They were captured somewhere. Otherwise, no one would sell Sudahua, a young and strong man. I just searched around, but there was no whereabouts of him. Sukinjao was a little anxious. The longer time passed, the more changes would happen to the two of them. While Sukingnao was anxious, Kui Sheng, the governor of Fengxiang Mansion, was also anxious. He spent a lot of money to ask people in the inner palace to help intercede, hoping that Emperor Shuo could take back his life. It's been so many days, and there's still no news from Chang'an. General, forget it. Your Majesty has said so sincerely that since he said he would take back my official position, he will not change his mind again. I was an ordinary soldier when I entered the camp, and now I am just the same as 3 years ago, Lu Bachan said lightly. How can this be the same? You have made so many contributions in the past 3 years. With your military achievements, they are more than just a 4th-level military achievement. Your military achievements are being weighed down by your Majesty. Your Majesty also knows it. At this time, I thought your Majesty had already demoted you to the 3rd level. It's the limit, I didn't expect it to be pushed to the end. Kui Sheng said rather angrily. You were so secretive at the time that few people knew about your relationship with Ma Mingwen. How could this happen? After hearing this, Lu Bachan couldn't help but smile to himself. What else could he do? It was just those people who wanted to step on him to climb up. When he saw his master on the battlefield, he was shocked and blurted out, "Master, someone must have heard this and have already investigated him privately." Kui Sheng sighed. The positions in the army were like carrots and pits. Someone had to be pulled out so that someone could fill them. I understand in my heart, but I just can't accept it. She looked him up and down. Here, are your injuries feeling better? Lu Bachan glanced at himself indifferently and shook his head. It's okay. He can't die. Kui Sheng knew that he was just comforting himself, and sighed again. You were shot by your master on the battlefield, and then received 100 military sticks when you came back. This is an added injury. It's okay. I just happened to take this opportunity to take a good rest and recuperate. In the past 3 years, I have been killing non-stop. My dreams are full of killings. Sometimes the water in the cup looks red. Now is the time. Take this opportunity to take a break. Kui Sheng felt that he sighed more this day than in the past combined. A natural-born warrior, when he says he can take advantage of his injuries to recuperate, he doesn't really want to meditate, but rather feels lonely. Try to say, you were. Were you too soft-hearted? That's my master. Lu Bachan knew what he was going to say and interrupted him. Once a teacher, always a father. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be where I am now. Maybe I would have been drafted, entered the barracks, and fought the first battle before I was alive. It was my master who taught me these things. To save my life, I can't do anything to him. Besides, I am no match for master now. Kui Sheng was silent and said, the number of our troops at that time was several times his. It would not be too difficult to encircle him or even annihilate them all. So it's their incompetence. It's none of my business. I'm injured. Isn't there anyone who can make up for it? Just send someone to chase me. If they can't catch me, my master and the others will run away and blame me. Lu Bachan smiled disdainfully. Kui Sheng was also quite helpless. How many people in the army are capable of taking action now? Even if they are, they still have some spare strength. I'm afraid that by then all the birds will be gone, and they will have no place to stand such chaos bureau, but also let the people above remember them and use them. Therefore, the only people who suffer are the common people who have no power, no background, and do not understand the political power. The two were talking in the tent, and the herald came in and handed Kui Sheng a letter. Kui Sheng saw that it was from Chang'an and hurriedly opened it to read. After reading it, he was so angry that he crumpled the letter into a ball. Shizi, hateful. After waiting for a while, he handed the letter to Lu Bachan to read. Lu Bachan read it without any surprise. I have expected it. This result will not change. Now Lu Lingzi is a famous man next to His Majesty, the first among the eunuchs. When Wang Hu was besieged and suppressed, his godson was the supervisor of our army. I and him there was some resentment, and now he wants me to be stepped on in the mud. Kui Sheng was very dissatisfied with the result of His Majesty's handling. I asked the eunuch in the inner palace to tell me what to do, but I didn't expect that he still didn't move His Majesty at all. Lu Lingzi has great power. I can't help feeling upset. After Lu Bachan was beaten, he could no longer lead troops. He finally cultivated a general who was brave in combat and capable of commanding. Now, he was asked to find another Lu Bachan. Lu Bachan looked indifferent. Apart from feeling sorry that my salary is gone and I can no longer save gold for my wife, I don't have any big regrets. He was a little lucky that he didn't mention his promotion in the letter he sent home. If his father was so happy that everyone in the country knew about it, and then his official position was removed, his father would be afraid. It's about being unable to step down. Thinking of this, the corner of his mouth raised. Kui Sheng happened to see it and said, "You are still smiling." Lu Bachan quickly calmed down his expression and straightened his mind. "I was just thinking about things at home." He added, "This result is quite good. I just have nothing to do. I work as a soldier for the general and have no responsibilities on my shoulders, so I am relaxed. Oh my, I have to take good care of myself." With that said, he walked out of the camp. Kui Sheng looked at his back and suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Although he sounded relaxed, Kui Sheng could see a hint of loneliness. Lu Bachan returned to the tent assigned to ordinary soldiers, and Guo followed him with a sad look on his face. Lu Bachan glanced at him. "Why are you making such an expression?" Guo was like an eggplant beaten by frost, with a wet expression on his face. "General, I can't even be your personal soldier anymore. Didn't Mr. Kui ask you to come over?" "But I still want to be your personal soldier." Guo was sad. Lu Bachan glanced at him and saw that his eyes were red, and sighed, "What's the matter? Don't you think we are sleeping in the same tent again?" Guo was not comforted at all. Standing in the tent with clenched fists, a look of reluctance. Lu Bachan rolled his eyes. "Oh, my butt and my chest hurt again." He pressed on his butt and chest. "Where does it hurt?" "General, let me show you." "Do you want to change the dressing?" Guo approached nervously. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 180. 20 days later, Sukingyu heard the good news. Read. The bandits in Beijiazai and Muwase were wiped out, some surrendered, and some fled. Now all the bandits in the village have been driven away. The village was returned to the hands of the villagers. Master Ma took people to clear out the nearby stockade. The bandits in nearby villages also fled after hearing the news. Many village owners came with their villagers to seek refuge. A few days later, Ma Mingwen returned to the governor's office with 28 letters of surrender. Discussed behind closed doors with Painian. "What are you going to do?" Painian asked. 28 letters of submission were spread out on the table, covering the entire table. They were all handed over by the village owners on their own initiative. "He doesn't even want it?" "Maybe it was because I was frightened. Once I was taken over, I was afraid that there would be a second chance." Seeing that Ma Mingwen had driven away the bandits, many people came to hug him, hoping to get Ma Mingwen's protection. Who knows if those bandits will come again after Ma Mingwen leaves? This time the bandits took over, and there were some casualties in each village. Some of the villages were almost completely killed by the bandits. The village owners were also frightened. In troubled times, investing in a reliable force may be more secure and can keep the village and its residents safe. Ma Mingwen tapped his fingers on the table and moved his eyes back from the 28 letters to Painian. Painian leaned against the back of the chair, with a face full of rejection. "Don't look at me. This thing is hot to the touch. I only know how to fight and kill, but I'm not as familiar with general affairs as you." Ma Mingwen didn't really want it either. "Besides, I can't stay in Renzhou forever. I will leave in a few days." After hearing this, Painian glanced at him and straightened his expression. "Like me, take over a piece of land and make it bigger, isn't it?" Ma Mingwen thought for a while and shook his head. "It's not suitable now. Maybe it's okay to have a stable life. But now there's chaos everywhere, and it's impossible to let you grow bigger." Painian was silent and said, "It's not appropriate for me to take this. I'm still a minister of the Shuo dynasty. If I take this, what will happen to the Hunan side? More than half of the 70 villages in Jiangdong are on the Hunan side. How am I going to manage these letters after I collect them? Originally, the mountain people have not paid all their taxes. No one knows how many people there are in the village. They have no land. They have to pay a household tax of ding and a small number of servants. When they enter the mountains, they hide in the mountains. Do you know how many households there are in his village? Over the years, they have turned a blind eye to these villages. Besides, if I want to accept these letters of surrender, will the Hunan side also want to collect letters of surrender from the villages in their territory? If they refuse, it will cause resistance and implicate the village here. Ma Mingwen also knew that what he said made sense, but it's useless for me to come. I won't stay here. I don't even know where I will go in the end. There is no one to trust me. They both fell silent. Painian was a scholar, well versed in public affairs and economics, and he quickly thought of a solution. He suggested, in this way, I will put all the mountain deeds where these villages are located in your name. You will send people to manage them, and you will help them solve any problems they have. With you here, they will feel at ease, and they will not be in vain you. They were also frightened by the bandits. What's the point of me coming? Ma Mingwen still refused. After Liniang passed away, he felt that he was a rootless person, with no home, no care in this world, and no matter where he went. After overthrowing Shuo Chao, he could go find Liniang and her children without any worries. He didn't want to deal with these things. This time he took action, just for the sake of Su Qingyu. Painian was a little anxious. How can it be useless? Think about it, you are not, so what, do you want to do big things? To do big things, no one must have money. If you don't have money, how can you buy weapons? You can't pay people when you recruit people? You can't be old. You rely on killing, robbing and picking up, right? You have to have your own way to make money. Can you compare with your own money by robbing others? Besides, you have been fighting those bandits, a bunch of rabble, for 20 days. You are still not a good hiding person in the mountains. Ma Mingwen listened quietly. I think what he said makes sense. Painian saw that his heart was moved, and then said seductively, when the time comes, send your wounded soldiers to the mountains to recuperate, and let them help you train troops in the mountains and develop the economy. The mountains are high and dense, and as long as you have a good grasp of the mountain pass, no one can break in. You must not arrange a way out for those who have followed you through life and death. Find a place of honor for those who have lost their arms and legs. Ma Mingwen's eyes gradually gained a glimmer of light. Painian knew at a glance that his heart was moved, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He really didn't want to accept these submissions. One is that it is too hot to handle, and the other is that he does not want to increase fiscal and tax revenue for Emperor Shuo. His annual income from Renzo was not enough for Emperor Shuo to banquet guests and reward his concubines. Why should he use the people's hard-earned money to satisfy their endless desires? Do that thankless thing. It's not like his brain was kicked by a horse. The two of them talked it through. Ma Mingwen went back to his room and thought about it all night. The next day he found Su Qingyu. Ah, me. Su Qingnao thought she heard wrongly. Master Ma wanted to hand over the management of the 28 villages in Jiangxi to her? Wouldn't it be more appropriate to leave this to the governor? Su Qingyu was a little confused. It's not easy for the governor to take care of this matter. All the villages in the mountains have never properly counted the population or collected taxes. If he wants to take over, it means that the imperial court will take over. If the imperial court takes over, it will formally collect taxes from the mountain people. The mountain people must not be willing to levy ding tax and various taxes. Su Qingyu understood it. Therefore, mountain villages have always been considered a land without owners, and they have been fought over and driven out. He was probably frightened and wanted to find a force to seek refuge with and seek refuge. Master, then you. Ma Mingwen shook his head, that's not my ambition. Su Qingyu glanced at him. She knew that he only had one thought in his mind, which was to overthrow Shuo Chao. Then master, how about you send someone to take care of it? The burden was a bit heavy, and Sukingyu was afraid that she wouldn't be able to bear it. I don't have anyone who understands economics and general affairs. I can kill them. Master, no one can trust me, and I believe in you. You did a good job when you opened the store before. You escaped with your family again. You have. If you are capable and courageous, I will leave this matter to you, Master, don't worry. This trust doubled Sukingyu's pressure. She thought she had no problem with the general affairs and economy, but she didn't have the force and was afraid she wouldn't be able to suppress it. Ma Mingwen looked at her frowning and said, as for the manpower, some of them have recovered from injuries. I will leave them to be raised in the mountains in the future. When the time comes, they will be there to intimidate them. Over at the governor's mansion, Mr. Pei, I will also send someone to help you. Just go ahead and do it. This may be my, Pei Nian's, and Bo Cheng's way out. Ma Ming looked at her steadily, and his last words were a little heavy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhao 11U. Chapter 181. Ma Mingwen's words made Sukingyu feel nervous. Read. She met Ma Mingwen's gaze, and after a moment, she understood. Okay. I will take good care of it. Ma Mingwen smiled and nodded. Well, I'll leave it to you, Master, don't worry. After saying that, I was very pleased and breathed a sigh of relief. Then he said, as for your parents, I heard that you have asked Pei Nian to help with the letter? Your brother is just a soldier, and I don't know how far he can go in the future. The world is in chaos now, maybe the mountains are more stable place. Sukingyu nodded, I will consider it. Ma Mingwen nodded, yes. Don't worry, you will have Master behind you. As long as you send someone to guard the entrance to the mountain, you can ensure the safety of the mountain. Sukingyu agreed. Being trusted by this, she suddenly felt a surge of heat in her heart. Maybe she really should do something. Fight for a stable and peaceful world in this troubled world. Create a paradise for Xiaobao. Sukingyu felt hot and eager to try. After answering this, Ma Mingwen felt relieved. He took her to meet Pei Nian again, and the three of them stayed in the room to discuss it all night. Since there is a way out for each other, we cannot treat each other casually. It must be managed well so that it can serve all parties. It can not only keep the villagers safe and give them a better and stable life, but also strive to become a way out for them. A few days later, the owners of the 28 villages who submitted their letters of surrender gathered at the governor's mansion. The talks lasted for 2 days, and everyone was happy in the end. If you want Ma Mingwen and Pei Nian's protection, you will naturally have to pay something. Before coming, the 28 village owners were all worried, fearing that they would be stabbed and cause heavy bleeding. I brought the money I collected from the village and didn't dare to let go on the way. But I didn't expect that not a single copper coin was confiscated from them. The village leaders couldn't help but feel nervous, thinking that the opponent was too weak and was holding back his big move. But in the end, apart from asking for how much grain and production to pay per year, there were no other excessive requirements. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. What's wrong with people providing you with protection and giving you a little food a year? And I don't want much. They can totally hand it over. Compared with farmers outside, who pay 1 for every 10 taxes and 3 for every 10 years, and each person pays 2 shi of millet, 2 zhang of silk, and 3 liang of cotton every year, this is already very little. And that's not all, there are a bunch of other taxes and various corvées. Besides, Mr. Ma sent people to protect the village, and these people also needed food and drink. All the village owners happily signed the contract. Yan, and no one said anything about Master Ma's suggestion of letting Sukingyu manage the village as a woman. All welcomed generously. It is not that there are no women as village leaders in each village. The mountain people in these villages are mostly from various ethnic groups, and there is no such thing as the farmer's family outside, where women are not allowed to show their faces. In some of their villages, the man married into the woman's family. Women are the masters of the house and let women manage the village. What's the point? Not all people are the same. Moreover, MRSU does not want to interfere in the affairs of the village. They should still be the owners of the village. It's not like the village leader has been replaced. All the village owners accepted it well. Especially the two village leaders of Beijia village and Muwa village looked at Sukingyu with eyes so soft that they could cry, as if they were looking at their own descendants. Sukingyu breathed a sigh of relief. I'm afraid that in this day and age, men can't accept women managing them. She was afraid that the village owners would be dissatisfied with her and did not want to be told what to do by a woman. Ma Mingwen looked around at the 28 village owners below and spoke calmly. From now on, when I'm not here, all affairs will be handled by my goddaughter. She will live in Beijiazai and will call everyone from time to time. If you have anything, you need to go to Beijiazai to report to her. She has full authority to handle it on my behalf. If you have any undecided questions, Mr. Pei will help you with this matter. Yes, understand. Sukingyu looked at Ma Mingwen in surprise. When did she become her goddaughter? Ma Mingwen just glanced at her faintly from the corner of his eye, and then discussed the matter with the village leaders again. Everyone here knew in their hearts that they were only seeking refuge with Ma Mingwen, not the imperial court. But behind the scenes there is the governor's office and Lord Pei Nianpei. In today's Shuo dynasty, even if they live deep in the mountains, they still know that the situation is precarious. Moreover, under the rule of Emperor Shuo, the people were displaced and no one was willing to surrender to the court. The common people who collected taxes from the imperial court have all left their homes, and they no longer want the land left by their ancestors for generations. The former fertile fields have now become wilderness, with no human habitation in various places and thorns covering the wilderness. The common people are extremely disappointed with the current court. After the meeting, the governor's office treated the 28 village owners to a delicious meal, which was enjoyed by both the guests and the host. The two village owners of Beijia village and Muwa village held Sukingyu's hand and said many words of gratitude to Sukingyu. If Sukingyu hadn't led people to rescue them, the women in the two villages would have died. Neither of them can survive alone. Both old men have the surname Bai, and Muwa village was previously separated from Beijiazai. We can't all call them village masters. The leader of Beijia village is called Baizhong, the leader of Muwa village is called Bai Kun, and Sukingnao is called the leader of Zhong village and the master of Kun village. There are several female village owners among these 28 village owners. There is no time to chat with them this time. Sukingnao is very interested in them and plans to find time to visit them. After sending the person away, Sukingyu remembered that Ma Mingwen said that she was his daughter. Just as she was about to ask him, Ma Mingwen approached her. I said at the meeting that you were my goddaughter, and I didn't just say it casually. You have an identity, mainly for the convenience of future operations. They came here, and if they see me leaving them, they will feel uneasy. Only by handing over only in my hands can they rest assured. Secondly, I do like you and Bo Chang, and your wife likes you too even more. When Liniang met Bo Chang before, she often regarded him as our little son. Bo Chang and I already have the status of master and apprentice, so it's hard to do anything else. If you don't mind it? I don't mind it. There are so many people who love me, and I'm not happy enough. And Xiaobao also has someone who loves him. He's his godfather. Seeing that he was disappointed, Sukingyu called out to him. Ma Mingwen almost burst into tears when she called her that. After his 3 sons died, no one called him dad again. Why? Ma Mingwen blinked away tears and responded. After a long time, he turned around and said to her, When I prepare a marriage recognition banquet at the governor's mansion tomorrow, you will officially join my family. I will also record you in my family tree. If your godmother knew that she had, I don't know how happy I am to have a daughter. She has always wanted a daughter. Sukingnao nodded. She could tell that Ma Shinyang liked Yaya so much. During her illness, she even sewed Yaya's clothes with her own hands and fed her with her own hands. The next day, Ma Mingwen notified the governor, his wife, and their families, as well as Kui Yuing and a group of disciples. Under the witness of everyone, Sukingyu served Ma Mingwen tea and recognized the godfather. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 182. Painian felt quite emotional that Ma Mingwen, a good friend, was really ill-fated. This time Ma Mingwen recognized his daughter, and he was happy for him. He said happily to Sukingyu, I was worried that Ma Mingwen would be a widow in old age. Now it's better, I like this niece too. Painian knew about Ma Mingwen and Liniang's feelings, and he couldn't say much about his relationship with Kui Yuing. He persuaded him to give Kui Yuing another child, so that his knees would not be empty. But Ma Mingwen refused. After all, this is Ma Mingwen's family matter. Although the two have been close friends since childhood, he can't interfere too much in this bed matter. Now it's good. Although she is a goddaughter and not a biological child, she still has children and grandchildren around her. Kui Yuing was a good concubine recorded in the Ma family's genealogy, and she served tea to his wife, so Sukingnao also served tea to her and called her aunt. Kui Yuing was very happy, now I don't have to covet Xiaobao anymore. He will be the good grandson of my Ma family from now on. Xiaobao also liked her very much. He hugged her neck and lay softly in her arms, making her reluctant to let go. Ma Mingwen looked at it with greedy eyes. When my son was young, they said that he would not hug his children before he hugged his grandchildren. He had never hugged his 3 sons. When they are gone, I miss them every day. Now that I have a little baby in front of me, I always feel itchy. The day after he recognized his marriage, Ma Mingwen left with a group of disciples and subordinates. Take the leopard away too. Hua Bao performed very well in the anti-bandit operation this time. Let Ma Mingwen see his strength. Seeing that he had a bottom line as a man, was not afraid of death in battle, and was smart and practical, he took him with him. Before leaving, Hua Bao happily came to say thank you to Sukingyu, and the girl screamed affectionately. Ma Mingwen had a detailed explanation with Sukingyu before leaving. 2 people were left for him. He also left some money for her, but Sukingyu didn't ask for it. For things like recruiting soldiers and horses, her godfather needs money more than she does. After Kui Yuing admitted her kiss, she became even more affectionate with Sukingyu, hugging her and reluctant to let go. Now that I'm leaving, my eyes are red. Over there, Ma Mingwen handed Xiaobao to Sukingyu, and when he was about to leave, Xiaobao burst into tears. It added a bit of reluctance to Ma Mingwen and Kui Yuing. Ma Mingwen took Xiaobao for a ride on the big horse again, and drove him around before taking him back. Sukingyu hugged Xiaobao, who was crying loudly and stretching out his hand towards Ma Mingwen, and waved goodbye to them. After Ma Mingwen, Kui Yuing, and others left, Sukingyu was also ready to leave. The governor's wife held her hand with great reluctance. Why don't you stay for a few more days? No, I've been harassing my wife for so long. I'm embarrassed to stay here any longer. How can you say it's a nuisance? You treat me as my own family. My clan brother has accepted you as my goddaughter. Naturally, you are also my niece. Come over if you have anything to do in the future. There will always be a place for you to live in the mansion. Okay, thank you. He thanked her sincerely. Before leaving, the governor called her to the study again, gave her several books, including history books, county annals, maps, and general economics, and gave her some instructions. If you have something to do in the future, just send someone to deliver a message to the governor's mansion. If there's anything that can't be solved, just send a message. With us behind you, you can go ahead and do it boldly. Yes, thank you, sir. Painian handed her some more deed papers. These are mountain deeds for several mountains. Take them. This? Didn't you give it to your godfather? Your godfather said it's not convenient for him to take it. He fights with people everywhere, so it's really not convenient for him to take it. You can keep it for him. So Qingyu had no choice but to take it. These mountains are all in Jiangxi, but some are no longer under the jurisdiction of Renzhou. It seems that he should have approached Jiangxi observation envoy Yang Bai. Painian watched her flipping through several deed papers and said, "You don't have to be mentally burdened. It's not difficult for me to get these. Today's surname is Yang, but I don't know who it will be tomorrow. There are several mountains with no fields and no soil. People want it?" So Qingyu smiled. It sounded easy, but she felt it shouldn't be easy. And in her eyes, the mountains have no fields or soil, but they are not poor, but many things are still unknown. After bidding farewell to the governor and his wife, So Qingyu took the two people left to her by her master, Ma Si Yuan and Ma Si Yuan, the mother and daughter given to her by the governor's wife, Lu, and her daughter Ruyi, and Bai Shu, to the Bai family. Village. Seeing Renzhou city getting further and further away, So Qingyu sighed, feeling a little melancholy. It has been more than a month, and there has been no news from my sister and brother Dehua. I wonder where they will be. Whether you are alive or not, whether you are suffering. Mom, Ma Xiaobao called out softly, bringing her thoughts back. So Qingyu gently patted his outstretched hand. No, it's getting cold now. Look, we have to cover ourselves with blankets in the carriage, right? It's too cold outside. What if Xiaobao gets blown? He's going to have to take hard medicine. Xiaobao didn't comply. He opened the car curtain and looked out, about to go out and ride a horse. Horse, Xiaobao wants to ride a horse. Your grandpa is not here, and there is no one to hold you and ride the horse. Speaking of grandpa, Xiaobao suddenly became quiet and looked outside the carriage. Yes, grandpa was missing. Where's grandpa? Grandpa has his own things to do. He won't be able to see Xiaobao until some time later. Now Xiaobao will stay with mom in the carriage, okay. It's cold outside. Mom is cold. Do you want Xiaobao to come with mom? Cover yourself with a blanket. After speaking, he patted the blanket. After being coaxed and coaxed by So Qingyu, Xiaobao was finally willing to put down the car curtain and squeeze into the blanket with her. Mother Lu and her daughter looked at the mother and son who were leaning on each other and laughed. Madam, Xiaobao is so obedient. If he disobeys and becomes stubborn, it will cost his life. Lu said, he is much better behaved than ordinary children. I have only heard him cry once since he came to the governor's mansion, and it was yesterday when Mr. Ma and the others left. He cried so loudly that he almost hugged Mr. Ma. He's gone. So Qingyu smiled after hearing this. He doesn't like to cry very much, but if things don't go his way and he loses his temper, it's hard to coax him. Xiaobao understood and looked at So Qingyu with a pout. So Qingyu stared at him. Did you say something wrong? Be good, little treasure. Why are you so good? Who wanted to ride a horse outside just now? It's so cold. Little treasure, be good, don't ride. He waved his little hand at So Qingyu. Not good. So Qingyu teased him. Be good. He was so angry that he even patted the blanket. Hey, you're a little older. How dare you get angry with her? Before So Qingyu could teach her a lesson, the boy turned around and fell into her arms. This made So Qingyu very helpless. Lu and Ryu agreed and both laughed. Both mother and daughter are also pitiful people. Lu's husband and son were both sent to the countryside the year before last. Her husband's family kicked out her mother and daughter. The mother and daughter begged all the way, and were rescued by the fleeing Ma family. Seeing that they were pitiful, they were taken to the governor's mansion. Seeing that there was no one around Sukingyu this time and she had a child with her, she asked Lu and Ruyi to follow her. Sukingyu asked the mother and daughter before leaving. Both of them were from farmers' families. They suffered too much along the way, were frightened, and yearned for a peaceful life. When I heard that Sukingyu was going to the mountains, I immediately agreed. Sukingyu saw that Lu and Ruyi liked Xiaobao, so she asked them to cultivate a relationship with Xiaobao. After all, she might not have much time to take care of Xiaobao when she gets busy in the future. Lu and Ruyi were teasing Xiaobao, while Sukingyu leaned against the inner wall of the carriage, thinking about how to get started next. The 28 villages are relatively scattered and difficult to manage. How many people are there in these villages, how are they distributed, what do the people in the villages do for a living, what products are produced in the villages, how to protect them, how to guard the entrance to the mountain, how to turn the products in Daking Mountain into money. These are not simple matters. Sukingnao found some books given by Painian and opened them.